Well, because gray blocks everything else.
All right, trust me, I know.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You guys can go when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm supposed to be standing on the box.
No,
You don't,
no,
you don't have to be.
no, it's just this
I was
angle.
about to say.
Because this gets the little ANF logo in the background. Stinger 4. Wait, is it Stinger 1 or Stinger 4 that first play out?
Stinger 4 is
Okay.
Stinger 4 is the after.
All right, let's do it. November 26th, 2024. Lee Smith, Aaron Ladd. I see sound levels. I think we're rocking.
We are. We are indeed rocking.
What a busy news day it was. Of course, we'll get silly at the end of the show. I have my favorite Thanksgiving things prepared for
Yep.
what's on my mind.
Oh, yeah?
And I know that's what's really going to drive traffic and keep people to
Oh, yeah.
stay on
Oh, yeah.
stream for as long as possible. So if you want to know what our favorite Thanksgiving sides are,
You got to wait till the end.
you got it. That's called a tease. It's called a tease in show business.
A whole show long tease.
We'll talk Thanksgiving. We will talk college football playoffs. We'll get those new rankings here in about 30 minutes and possibly how that impacts Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. And then we will look ahead to what will be a fantastic offseason for Atlanta United, full of ups and downs and shifts as we start here on ANF Sports Tonight
Yep.
for November 26th, 2024. That was the big news of the day, Lee. It seemed like it was a whirlwind there, and it started with the announcement from Rob Valentino that he would not. I mean, what a rollout that was.
Yeah, he announced first on Twitter that he was not going to be coming back. So he's Atlanta United's manager or interim manager is not coming back. He announced that on Twitter first, and then maybe 20 minutes later, there was a email from the team that said, "Hey, we're gonna have at 4:00. We're gonna have Garth Lagerwade, the team president, talk." So he talked for about 30 minutes. He covered a whole lot of stuff.
They couldn't have been the way that they had it.
No, I don't think that's how they drew it
Yeah,
up.
I
It's
think
definitely not how they drew it up. But you know what? Sometimes professional sports, that's exactly how it unfolds. So
And we'll get to some of that sound from Garth in a while. I kind of want to react to it before we
Yeah,
toss
yeah.
the sound because this is something that we've had these discussions. I remember Ellie and I talking about this on this show.
Yeah.
I think Connor and I and you and I have probably talked about this as well.
Yeah.
The fantastic run they went on, not even just making the playoffs, but eliminating Montreal in Montreal. Then one of the most historic upsets in just sports in general, let alone Major League Soccer, besting the Supporters Shield winners Inter Miami in that 3-game series. We were wondering and discussing if that would be enough for Rob to keep his job. And were you surprised by this announcement today?
I was a little bit, just because so much had to go right on decision day for them to even have a chance, let alone actually make it into the playoffs. And then once they got in the playoffs, they had to go slay Goliath in Miami and Messi and basically every other person from like Barcelona's team who were friends with
The
Messi.
washed-up all-stars.
Yeah, pretty.
Tata Martino is
Well,
the
okay,
coach.
let's use washed up in quotes because I don't know
Okay.
if they're really washed up, but they just happen to be like, oh, cool. I got him over here.
Yeah.
Sure enough. We'll go kick it for a couple years. But yeah, it was so much had to go right. Decision day, it was like a 7-8% chance of them even getting in. Well, guess what? All the dominoes fell true. They got in. Then they had to go beat Miami. Started on the road, lost, and they get back. Game 2, they win. And then they win Game 3, and Brad Guzan was a huge part of that.
Massive.
But guess what? Rob Valentino was the top. So, and then they go to Orlando. They lose 1-0. I don't know. I mean, I get where Garth was, he is saying that basically everything he's doing is for years ahead and for championship level play. So
It kind of
I'm
sounds
just
like
curious if like where would the threshold have been that he should have that Rob had to get to wins versus what Garth thought. What would like if they had advanced the next round, if they had beaten Orlando on Sunday, would that have been enough?
Then you're in the
because
Final
then you're
Four.
in the semifinals. There's only 4. I mean, come on, that's for a team that let's go back through the timeline. Okay.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay,
Get
I'm
in the
gonna miss
Wayback
something because
Machine.
there's way too much that's happened this year for this team. Okay, so let's see.
Gonzalo Pineda.
Even before that,
Sure.
all right. Well, okay, let's start there. Pineda gets fired.
Yes.
Pineda gets fired. We literally played the media match, and then
You played the media match this year?
Yeah, I had a couple
Yeah,
shots on
okay,
goal.
big dog.
I had a couple shots on goal. But we were playing the media match with him on like a Friday, and I swear he was gone on like Monday. It was wild. Like, dude,
There were concerns about the way that the club was heading, the direction the club was heading, the
'cause
talent,
the results
and how
weren't
they were
there for the
responding.
first half of the
Exactly.
season. It was awful. It was
Yeah.
bad. It was bad. So I mean, that's understandable in my opinion.
And then that also impacted the front office because Carlos
Bocanegra
Bocanegra
got fired,
yeah,
too.
and he had been a stalwart back to when they were a championship club.
the very start.
Yeah,
So
I
now, okay, all right. So that happens.
sure.
And then they start selling off the designated player spots, which the designated player spots in the MLS are typically reserved for your best players. I think you only get 4. So if you only get 4, and by the way, your striker Yorgo Shakamakis
Triple G.
leaves. Then
They-
they let go of Thiago Almada,
They pieced
which
the car
was
for parts,
huge.
essentially.
And then Caleb Wiley's gone. That's 3 huge pieces back to back to back on the span of like 2 weeks. Gone.
It was
Coach,
a
gone.
fire sale at a certain point where they were just
And
like,
then,
you know what?
And then your technical director, Bocanegra, gone. So like,
yeah,
and somehow, some way, that team made it to the playoffs and won the first round.
against
And
the
they
best
beat
team in league
Miami
history.
twice,
Yeah.
folks. Like, it wasn't like a fluke.
So is this a
Like,
pro Rob argument?
They beat them at home and at their place.
Is this a pro Rob? This is a pro Valentino?
I don't know, man.
Are you pro Valentino? You're saying he
it's-
did enough, is what I'm hearing. I'm pushing you towards the take. Say the take. Say that he should have been the coach.
I don't know, man. It's tough, but it all just depends on who they bring in,
Okay.
and I can't tell the future. So I'm gonna say they made the right move right now, but like, here's the thing: it could easily just go the other way, where now Valentino goes somewhere else, possibly,
Lands on his
and-
feet.
and wins there.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I'm saying is there was a big difference in the way the team was playing at the end of the season versus the start. Huge difference.
Absolutely.
Huge difference. And that's not really even debatable. So, I don't know. Could be the right choice. Might be the wrong choice. I don't know.
We may have lost our window to listen to Lagerway, but
Well, let's listen
You
to
wanna-
him a
you
little
wanna- you
bit.
wanna
Yeah, but I feel
dip
like
in on him?
I feel like it's a little bit necessary.
all right, let's hear from the president and CEO of Atlanta United talking with the media today just about where the state of the club is currently.
How's everybody? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'll let Chris
Happy
get back
Thanksgiving.
in his moderator chair here.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
All right.
All
Catch
right.
your breath.
Thanks. We're going to go ahead and get started with questions. Again, hit that raise hand icon and I'll get you in. Doug, see your hand up. Why don't you go ahead?
All right, Chris, I'm sure I'm going to have some follow-ups to the answer. So,
Go ahead.
Garth, why did you decide that Rob Valentino wasn't the candidate to be the team's next manager? And did you try to convince him to stay on as an assistant?
Rob and I met this morning and had a really good conversation, consistent with the good conversations that we've had over the last couple of months. I really enjoyed working with Rob. He's done a fantastic job with the group. I think he's a guy with a really bright future ahead of him. So I just can't thank him enough for what he did with our group, for how he was able to maximize our team and to go on a playoff run and beat Miami. And, he is going to be a part of Atlanta history and lore for the foreseeable future. So just proud of him and thankful that I got a chance to work with him. In terms of what comes next, next steps obviously are up to Rob. We met this morning. I informed him he wasn't going to be our next head coach. And I think one of the things that we look for in a head coach at Atlanta United is potentially someone with experience, someone who has a proven track record of winning. And it was really important to us that we give Rob a chance to prove that, and to prove that he could go deep in the playoffs and he could compete for titles. And unfortunately, we came up just short of that, which doesn't diminish the run that we went on. And we had a lot of fun, and it was certainly spectacular to have 70,000 people in the building for Game 2. I think that was a special moment, special event, and it's in a lot of ways redeemed the season, salvaged the season, what had otherwise been a pretty bumpy experience. So excited for what Rob is going to bring in the future, but unfortunately, it will not be as the head coach of Atlanta United at this time.
As a follow-up to that, when you promoted him to interim from assistant in June, you knew that he didn't have the experience that you just talked about. You said you wanted somebody to lead him into the playoffs. He did that. What changed between June and now that just made you decide this is not the guy?
I wouldn't say anything changed, Doug. To compare it to the Seattle situation, there's a ton of parallels, right? Brian Schmetzer had been a longtime assistant with Seattle. I think literally might have been 7 years. I think it might have been almost exactly the same time period. And again, Brian took over, and he didn't get the job because he won one playoff round either. He got the job because he won the title. So it was to give what we agreed upon when we started was to give Rob an opportunity to prove himself. And certainly, different folks can have different opinions of what constitutes proof. But compared to, that has to be the standard ultimately for Atlanta United is, are we going to win championships? And the ideal would be with our fan base, biggest in the league, with the best facilities in the league, with the best ownership in the league. We are in a position where, we can recruit and we can afford proven winners. And I think that's a big part of what we want to do. And again, I think Rob had every opportunity, and I think Rob did great. I want to reiterate that he did really, really well for where he is in his career, and I think he's got brighter days ahead. But to say that he doesn't have a title to point to say, hey, I won this.
Doug,
So
I'll get back to. I got a couple others here. Sid, right, please.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Garth. Good to talk to you this afternoon. So, kind of branching off, that what you mentioned earlier, what you mentioned just now, I guess, is the requirement for what you're looking for, is it somebody that has one MLS Cup or a trophy in MLS, or is it a little bit broader than that, or can you kind of expound on that real quick?
Sure. A proven winner means that, right? And we're not just looking at MLS coaches. We'll be looking at coaches from around the world. And look, we started that process, and so we're pretty far along with it. We're down to a couple of finalists at this stage. We're hopeful that we can make this decision in the next couple of weeks, before Christmas. And we think that those folks who are our finalists, those guys are proven winners. And look, to be clear, and Doug, didn't mean to just bounce off you like that without giving you another chance to follow up. But I think the best way to answer this would be to simply wait. It won't be long now, and we'll make a final decision, and we'll hire a coach, and then you guys can decide and write about whether or not there's distinguishment or distinguishment. That's not a word. Whether there is a difference or not in terms of the level of accomplishment and experience. And I just want to reiterate again, though, for where Rob is in his career, he's fantastic. He's doing a great job. I would recommend him for many other positions. And, again, it just wasn't going to be the head coach of Atlanta United at this time.
Zach?
Hey, Garth, was bringing Brad back a no-brainer? Does he go into next year? Is he the guy? Suzanne?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, Brad beat Miami. Right. I mean, I think the iconic moment of the series for me is when, we give up the second goal to Miami and the kid pushes Brad into the back of the goal, and he gets up, and Suarez is in his face, and he stands up to him physically, and you could just watch the group draw strength from that. I really think that was the inflection point where not only were we going to go down in that, because that was the equalizing goal, but we were going to beat these guys. We were going to go toe to toe with them and not back down. And I think Brad, not just through his goalkeeping, but through his leadership, really showed what he brings to the table. And I think he made such a difference for us in that series. And we're really excited to bring him back again next year.
Doug, go ahead.
All right. That was Garth Lagerwey, which I just found out today Garth is not short for anything. I didn't know if that was like common knowledge or whatnot, but
Does that surprise you?
it was a little surprising. I don't know. I don't know where my head
I
was
guess
at
it
with
could
that
be.
one.
I don't know of any abbreviations Garth would be, short for.
Is Trey short for anything? Trey's not short for anything?
I don't think so.
Anyway, Trae Young back in the news today here on a Tuesday, November 26, 2024, as the Atlanta Hawks are fined for a violation of the player participation policy for the league, which is basically their initiative to make sure that star players show up and play in the regular season. They're trying this NBA Cup thing.
The no resting.
The load management. They're trying to get load management out of the game.
That's what
and
it was.
to me, we were both in Chicago for the game that you all watched on Peachtree TV, the Hawks falling in their third NBA Cup game.
Yeah.
I asked Quinn Snyder after that game, because of what I observed in that game, is Trae Young healthy? Because he doesn't appear healthy to me. But let me close out this story and I'll toss it to you really quick. The league thinks otherwise. They had an independent doctor investigate him sitting out on November 12th, which was the first Cup game that they played in Boston without him, and they won. Dyson Daniels had a hell of a performance in that one. So the Hawks were fined $100,000 for Trae Young missing that game. He is also on the injury report leading up into their next game, which is in Cleveland on Wednesday. So then I'll toss it to you on this.
Okay.
Where do you think Trae Young's health is at? Do you think they are playing funny games with the injury report? Does this news surprise you as far as how the Hawks reported it and maybe the story going
Well,
from there?
the one thing that makes me say they're not playing games is because if you're in the Cup, you win the Cup, everyone gets more money. And I don't think that they would sit Trae out knowing against the NBA champions
Yeah.
that he's in the lineup, he's their best shot to win. So I don't know why they would hold him in that specific game. Now, if it was just a completely, every game's, means something. They're not meaningless, but
The Cup games have
if
extra meaning.
They do.
Yeah.
Because, if you're, on the end of the bench, a couple $1,000 extra for everybody. How much is it? It's like a
More than I'll ever make in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
No, it's a good chunk of change, and the guys are competitive
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You
and,
know,
they
you
want
give
to
extra
win.
stakes
I
to
don't-
it.
So I
They
don't
wanna
see why
play.
he would be on the bench.
Trey even more so.
I don't think.
I think when I asked Quinn Snyder in Chicago, is Trey healthy? He even mentioned Trey's one of those guys that always wants to go. He always wants to play. He's a guy you have to protect from himself.
So I'd say he's not. He's definitely not 100% healthy. Now I don't know what percentage, but he's not completely healthy.
I'm curious if this impacts
That's kind of excessive though. Like
$100,000.
Well, not that. It's just how can you tell? How would they know for sure? That's always the debate when someone gets injured. It's like, okay, well, they might look like they're hurt or they could possibly have some kind of injury, but if you're not them, you don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was kind of odd popping up today of all times. Like, why now?
I think
late,
the
right?
league really wants their star players to play in these games specifically. These are games that now are being sold off under their new
Okay,
deal.
well-
So when it's like you're coming to see the reigning champs versus the Atlanta Hawks, you're expecting to see Tatum, Brown versus Trae Young
I
and
get
Jalen
it,
Johnson
but
and
if
that
you're
kind of
hurt,
thing.
you don't want to risk an entire season on a cup game. So there's that.
And I believe that's the only game that Trae Young has missed this year.
Well, okay, so he played in yesterday, or not yesterday's, but he played in Friday night's cup game, right? Because we were there.
Yes, he did, and then he
Okay.
played again on Monday against the. So he's like,
Okay, so there you go. So why are we finding him $100K for one game?
the club.
That's
I
crazy.
think it's due to the reporting policy, and this has a lot to do with
100K.
gambling in the sports now. Like
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
true,
be,
that's true.
you have to be as clear as possible. You can't have people who are betting on these games thinking that Trae Young is going to play
I know.
without him being on the injury report, and then all of a sudden, moments before the game, oh, Trae Young is a late scratch, and he wasn't even mentioned on the injury report. The leagues are playing a dance
Okay,
here.
so if the Hawks get fined because they didn't properly or report it in time, that's one thing. But like to question whether somebody's hurt or not, I don't know. Seems a little iffy.
Yeah, he doesn't look healthy to me either. Let's transition to some football here on the way out. November 26, 2024. The Atlanta Falcons coming off their bye week. And look, Tampa won over the bye week, so now the NFC South race is getting a lot more interesting. I mean, a month ago, I remember having
Isn't
a
it only one
conversation with
game now?
you. That sounds right. That
I
sounds
think
right.
it's one game. Yeah, because the Falcons lost back to back, so I think it's one game. Yeah.
Going into
Now they still have the tiebreaker over
Yes.
the Bucks, so they do have they have wiggle room, but not a whole lot.
I remember going into New Orleans, I was saying, just handle your business here, and the division's over. And of course, we know who it is since then. The Falcons are 6-5. They've lost their last two, and yes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 5-6.
Yeah.
After they won last time against the New York Giants, which I don't even know. That should be like half a
Come
win.
on now.
It's-
That's not even fair. They don't even have a quarterback.
Answer the question here on the screen, Lee Smith. Will the Falcons claim the NFC South here? Not will they make the playoffs. It's a different question. I think they obviously can still make the playoffs without, or maybe not.
I don't think they make the playoffs without winning the division.
Do they win the South?
Yes, I think they do.
Okay. Why do you say that? Where does your confidence come from with a team
They
that
only
is
have Carolina left, right?
on the final week of the
That's it.
season?
Yeah,
I'll Carolina.
I'll take them over Carolina. Yeah.
I am scrambling to look up their remaining schedule.
Now they do have they do have a kind of a rough schedule coming back.
They do. So this Sunday they're at home against the
Broncos.
Los Angeles
Oh, sorry,
Chargers.
they play the
You'll be
Broncos.
there.
Yeah, they got-
Then they travel to
But,
Minnesota,
they just laid two really bad eggs.
at Las Vegas. New York Giants, as we mentioned, they'll play the Pop Warner team that plays in New York.
They have to be at least lost. They got to win. What do they got? 5 left.
At the Washington Commanders and then Carolina. So
All right,
1,
so I
2,
think they probably
3,
lose against
4,
Commanders.
5, 6 games remaining.
It all depends. I don't know if they can beat the Vikings. Vikings and Commanders are gonna be tough because the Vikings have good defense, and Sam Darnold's playing a lot better than he has been ever in his career. They got Justin Jefferson, so this defense is shaky for the Falcons. So who knows?
Shaky.
Can't get a pass rush. So
Shaky is a nice way to put it
Yeah.
because I saw some discussion over the bye week as it relates to the pass rushing stats.
Yeah.
Matthew Judon and the acquisition that he was.
has not been great.
That is where Atlanta has the most ground to gain coming out of the bye
sure.
week. Yes, they can get healthy as well, which is a big reason why I think they were so depleted in that second half in Denver. They just didn't have the guys, especially in the cornerback room. So get healthy, one. But Jimmy Lake, he's the Falcons defensive coordinator, who's been resistant to kind of changing the philosophy and what they do.
They're gonna have to change something because they can't get anybody else. Trade deadline's come and gone, so they're gonna have to trade something. Something's got to change.
And that puts so much stress on the rest of the defense. So there's 3 levels of defense. Your defensive line, your linebackers, and
there?
your corners.
Yeah,
When there's people at home.
yeah.
When you can't get home with 4 or 5, like it just puts so much additional pressure on the rest of the defense.
Now you're just asking the back end guys to do more work, and it's already hard enough because guess what? The guys they're going against are NFL receivers.
So out of these last 6 games,
hello.
what's the Falcons' record in their last 6? They're 6-5 now,
I'd say 3-3.
which would put them at 9-8. And you think
Yeah.
that's enough to win it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Honestly, it sounds
the last
right.
last few years that has been enough. Unfortunately, or sadly, not. Yeah, it's
I
just,
think Tampa won it at 7-10.
Yeah,
last
dude,
year,
it was just, winning record's an improvement.
I like 9-8. I'm going to side with you on that. I think 3-3, but it matters how it looks. I think if
Here's
it's
the
3-3
thing,
and you
if
lose the last 2,
They've
on the
got to
way
win.
in,
They've got to win at home. They've got to
Yeah.
win all the home games.
starts this Sunday. You'll be there.
I don't know if they can beat the Chargers.
Chargers
The
are not a
coming
cupcake.
off. They're coming off losing. Well, they didn't look great last night though against the Ravens.
Correct.
They did in the first couple drives, and then it just fell off. Now J.K. Dobbins got hurt. I don't know if he's going to come back and play, and if he doesn't,
Tough for my
that's a
fantasy
good
teams.
that's good for the Falcons defense. I mean, now you still got Justin Herbert.
3-3 over the last 6. We will monitor the Falcons in their position in the NFC South.
Yep.
Here on ANF Sports Tonight. Let's talk some Georgia Bulldogs on the way out here because we teased this on the way in. Want to get to this because I know some Bulldog fans that were melancholy about getting into the SEC championship game. They were like, "Oh, you mean we gotta play in Atlanta? I mean, like, do we have to?"
I would love for my team to be in it because that would mean they didn't have 3 losses already. But you know.
But Georgia has Tech this Friday, which we will both be in the building for, and they get their ranking here in a matter of minutes. They were 10 last week, and then they beat UMass. So I don't expect that to change. I know there was some change around them. Maybe they move into
They're definitely going to move up.
But all that matters is you win the SEC title game. You win the SEC title game, you're in the top 4. You're in. You're set.
Yeah.
So the ranking to me, I'm like,
the ranking
okay.
doesn't really matter.
It's like it's like a bow on a present around Christmas.
It doesn't.
Just tell me what's inside. Like, are they going to win the national
Although
championship
I will
or
say, it does matter for the later rounds. You want to be the higher seed.
Seeding.
For well, I guess really the semifinals aren't. It doesn't even matter because they're going to be here anyway if they make it. Peach Bowl.
It will not be on campus. If they win the SEC
Yeah.
championship game, they do not play one of those on-campus home games.
So it
in
doesn't
the first
necessarily
round.
matter. Honestly,
It doesn't.
I mean, at this point, you just want to be in.
And
you want to
also,
be in. You want to get that bye, and if you get that bye, it doesn't matter. After that, everything happens the way it's going to happen. I mean,
like, there's a world where they could lose to Tech and win the SEC title game and still be in the top 4,
which is crazy.
Because
That's
they won
insane.
the SEC.
Which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and throw this one out there.
Yeah, is this what's on your mind today?
The top 4 aren't the 4 best teams in the country. The top 4 are not the 4 best teams in the country. It's just the top 4 division winners or conference winners, which is crazy to me.
I think that's
crazy to me.
I think that's going to change eventually. I think
It should
yes, if
never
you win
have
your
been a
conference,
thing.
You're going to get in, but I don't know if
So
outside of this year,
look,
they're going to
SMU's a great
that.
story this year.
Sure.
Awesome. Now, does SMU deserve to be a top 4 team? I'd say no. Indiana was a great story until they
You
actually had
were
to,
rooting
until
for
they
them
had to go.
so hard.
They were a great team until they actually had to go play another
You
real
and
team.
Connor
And look what
were
happened.
Waving that banner.
Look what happened.
Oh.
No,
What's
no,
his name?
I thought what actually happened was going to happen.
Signetti or something like that.
It's a great story until you have to
I
actually play
want
a
the
big
best
boy.
teams. I want the best teams.
I do too. I'm literally saying the same thing.
I want the best teams. And I think
I'm
even
telling
if
you-
Georgia loses to Tech, now it depends on how it looks.
Indiana was overrated, but they were also undefeated, so it's kind of weird. Now,
Yeah.
didn't matter. They lost. They're probably going to be done. They might sneak in. I doubt it, but
Is that what's on your mind, or you got something else? You want to tell me
that's
your
crazy. to
favorite
me.
Thanksgiving?
If Indiana gets in, like that's crazy. Now I can't really sit here. I'm an Alabama fan. I know we're out because we were awful. That should be on my mind. That's actually what's going to be on my mind.
Well, you go. Let's
All
run.
right.
We're in our 2-minute warning here.
How do you go all the way to Norman, Oklahoma, first time you've played them in the regular season since I don't even know when? And you score 3 points.
Raise if your team beat Oklahoma this year.
God, did they?
With our backup
I'm
quarterback.
telling you, I don't know
It was
what
Drew
it is,
Pine.
man.
Drew Pine beat Oklahoma.
Hey, man, I would have taken Drew Pine over Jalen Milroe that night. I promise you that much.
Can
It
you
was
tell
so
me your
bad.
favorite
It was so
Thanksgiving
bad.
food? We have 1 minute left here. on
Favorite
ANF.
Thanksgiving
Yeah.
food? I'm a dressing guy. I love dressing. Dressing, sweet potato casserole.
Are you putting gravy?
Two things I got to have.
Gravy?
Oh, yeah. A little bit. You don't want to smother it. I want a little bit over the top because I do want to taste everything in the dressing. I don't want to just gloss over it with like 10 pounds
Sure.
of gravy.
Yeah.
But I do need a little bit of gravy.
Turkey does not get enough love for what it does, not only on the day of the meal, but also in the sandwiches after the
Oh
meal.
yeah, oh yeah. It's just a gift that keeps on giving.
You know, the versatility, I just think we kind of sleep on
Yeah,
that. So
yeah, no, we do.
turkey's not my favorite, but I want to give
We
turkey
do
some
sleep on it
love.
because it definitely puts me to sleep.
Hopefully we didn't put you to sleep. Here on ANF Sports Tonight, November 26th, for Lee Smith, who is a tortured Alabama fan.
Oh.
I am Aaron Ladd, who is also a tortured Missouri fan. I'll be back here tomorrow as we break down everything in Atlanta sports. Until next time.